$20. My husband raised the auction paddle with one hand and pointed at me with the other. That is my opening bid for an evening with my wife. 300 people laughed. For a moment, I thought I had misunderstood him. The ballroom lights were bright enough to make every champagne glass sparkle. A 10-piece orchestra waited beside the stage. Behind Victor, a 40-foot screen displayed the gold logo of the Whitfield Children's Foundation, the organization whose annual gala I had planned for 11 years without ever receiving a salary or seeing my name in the program. Victor smiled into the microphone. "Evelyn is very low maintenance," he continued. "She does not talk much. She remembers where you leave your keys, and if you are lucky, she might organize your closet before dessert." The laughter grew louder. Someone at table 12 clapped. A man near the front shouted, "Does she cook?" Victor turned toward me as though we were sharing a private joke. "She cooks, but I make no guarantees about flavor." More laughter. My face felt hot, but the rest of my body had gone cold. I stood near the side of the stage, wearing a silver-gray gown Victor had chosen because he said it looked respectable without demanding attention. In my hand was the final event schedule marked with every donor arrival, dietary restriction speech cue, and emergency contact. I had spent 6 months building that evening. Victor had spent 6 minutes making me the entertainment. The auctioneer leaned toward him. "Mr. Whitfield, perhaps we should move to the signed Charleston Harbor package." Victor waved him away. "Relax, Martin. My wife knows I am joking." Then he looked directly at me. "Smile, Evelyn." So I smiled. Not because it was funny, because for 26 years smiling had been the fastest way to end his cruelty. Victor had learned that he could say almost anything if he said it in a charming voice. If I objected, I was sensitive. If I cried, I was dramatic. If I stayed quiet, he called me a good sport. He lifted the paddle again. $20. Do I hear 25? A woman raised her hand. 25. The room applauded. Victor laughed so hard he bent at the waist. I watched people I had seated fed, thanked, comforted, and remembered laugh at the idea that my company was worth less than the flowers on their tables. The auctioneer looked uncomfortable. "Let us keep this symbolic." "Oh, it is symbolic," Victor said. "After 26 years, I finally discovered my wife's market value." That was when a man at the back of the ballroom stood. He was tall, perhaps 60, with silver hair and a black suit without a pocket square. He had not been on my seating chart. I knew every confirmed guest, sponsor, vendor, and board member. I did not know him. $2 million, he said. The ballroom fell silent. Victor's smile remained on his face, but the expression behind it disappeared. The auctioneer blinked. "I beg your pardon." The stranger walked slowly between the tables. $2 million. Victor laughed uncertainly. "Well, sir, I admire your generosity, but this was only a joke." I know exactly what it was. The man stopped 10 feet from the stage. He did not look at Victor. He looked at me. "I am not bidding for an evening with Mrs. Whitfield," he said. "I am making a $2 million contribution in her name." Whispers moved across the room. Victor lowered the microphone. "To the foundation." The stranger finally looked at him. "Number?" Victor's jaw tightened. "Then what exactly are you doing?" "I am correcting the number you placed on a woman whose value you were never qualified to calculate." No one laughed. The man turned back toward me. "Mrs. Whitfield, my name is Jonathan Mercer. My sister spent the final year of her life trying to find you." The schedule slipped slightly in my hand. "Your sister?" "Her name was Lila Mercer." The name meant nothing at first. Then he said another name, Leela Dawson. The ballroom disappeared. I was 24 again, standing beneath the flickering lights of a bus station outside Savannah. Rain struck the windows. A teenage girl sat behind a vending machine with no coat, a split lip, and both arms wrapped around a canvas backpack. She told me her name was Lila. She was 15. She had run from a foster placement where the man in the house entered her room at night. I had been a first-year elementary teacher, then working weekend shifts at a roadside cafe because my salary barely covered rent. I missed the last bus home because I stayed with her. I bought her chicken soup, called every youth shelter listed in the phone book, and refused to leave when a transit officer said she was probably lying. Eventually, a social worker arrived. I rode with Lila to the emergency shelter and stayed until sunrise. Before I left, I gave her my old green scarf because she would not stop shaking. I thought about her for years, but I never learned what happened next. I looked at Jonathan. She was your sister, my half-sister. We found each other when she was 21. My knees weakened. What happened to her? His eyes filled, but his voice remained steady. She died 8 months ago. The sound that left me did not feel like a word. Jonathan reached into his coat and removed a cream envelope. She asked me to give you this personally. Victor stepped between us. Perhaps this conversation should happen somewhere private. Jonathan looked at him. You made her humiliation public. Then he moved around Victor and held the envelope toward me. My name was written across the front in blue ink. Evelyn Rowan Whitfield. Rowan was the name I had not used since my wedding day. How did she know my married name? I asked. She became very good at finding people nobody else bothered to look for. I took the envelope. The paper trembled between my fingers. Victor leaned toward the microphone. Well, this is certainly moving, but we do have an auction schedule. Jonathan turned toward the audience. My sister founded the Mercer Bridge Network, an international organization providing legal advocacy and emergency housing for young people leaving foster care. A woman near the front gasped. I knew the organization. Everyone in that ballroom did. Mercer Bridge operated shelters in 12 states and had recently opened legal clinics in Canada and Ireland. Their annual reports were quoted at every nonprofit conference Victor attended. Jonathan continued. Before Lila died, she left instructions creating a $2 million initiative called the First Safe Door Fund. She named Evelyn Rowan Whitfield as founding chair. The silence became almost physical. Victor stared at me. You knew about this? Number. Jonathan's eyes never left mine. My sister wrote that one night of kindness gave her enough time to believe there might be another kind of life. She wanted the fund led by the person who first showed her that safety could arrive through a stranger. My throat closed. I looked down at the envelope. Victor stepped closer. This is wonderful news for all of us. All of us. The phrase landed like a hand reaching for something before it had even touched the ground. He put one arm around my waist and smiled toward the cameras. My wife has always had an extraordinary heart. The same people who laughed 5 minutes earlier began applauding. Camera flashes burst across the stage. Victor's arm tightened. Smile, he whispered without moving his lips. I did not. For the first time in 26 years, I removed his hand from my body in front of other people. The applause weakened. Victor's smile stayed fixed. Evelyn. I turned toward the microphone. My heart pounded so hard I could feel it beneath my ribs. I had written hundreds of speeches for Victor. Donor speeches, award speeches, funeral remarks, holiday messages. He delivered my words with perfect timing while I stood behind curtains holding his coat. I had never spoken from that stage. Mr. Mercer, I said, I do not know what your sister believed I could do, but I would like to read her letter before anyone makes plans in my name. Jonathan nodded. That is exactly what she hoped you would say. I looked at the guests. Please continue the auction without me. Then I walked off the stage. Victor followed me into the service corridor. What are you doing? I kept walking. You cannot leave now. I can. Do you understand what this could mean for the foundation? I stopped. The kitchen doors swung open behind us. Servers carried trays past without looking directly at us. This is not about your foundation. $2 million is always about the foundation. No, Jonathan specifically said it was not. Victor lowered his voice. Do not become difficult because you are emotional. I looked at the man I had married at 27. He had once waited outside my classroom with coffee because I was grading papers late. He had once told me my kindness made him want to become better. Over time, he stopped wanting to become better. He simply learned how useful my kindness could be. You auctioned me for $20, I said. It was a joke. You called me useless. I said low maintenance. You invited a room full of people to assign me a price. They knew it was comedy. I knew it was contempt. His face changed. You are going to take one awkward joke and destroy everything we built. I almost laughed. Everything we built. I had designed every gala, written every donor letter, organized volunteer teams, visited widows after board members died, remembered the names of sponsors' children, sat beside Victor's mother through chemotherapy, hosted executives in our home, and cleaned the kitchen after they left. Yet whenever recognition arrived, Victor said he had built it. Whenever labor was required, he said we had built it. I need to go, I said. You will come back before the chairman's speech. Number. His eyes narrowed. Do not embarrass me further. I looked at him. Victor, you put me on an auction block. He glanced toward the kitchen staff. Keep your voice down. That sentence ended something inside me. Not the marriage. The marriage had been ending quietly for years. It ended my willingness to protect the appearance that it still lived. I walked through the hotel lobby and out into the warm Charleston night. Jonathan was waiting near the valet stand. I did not mean to cause you more pain, he said. You did not. He glanced back toward the ballroom doors. Do you have somewhere safe to go? The question startled me. Safe. Not comfortable, not impressive, not appropriate. Safe. My friend Ruth lives nearby. Would you like my driver to take you? I can call a car. He nodded immediately. No insistence, no offended pride. I will give you space. My number is inside the envelope. I held the letter against my chest. Did Lila really remember me all those years? Jonathan's face softened. She remembered every detail. My ride arrived. Before I got in, he said, Mrs. Whitfield. I turned. My sister never described you as the woman who saved her. What did she call me? The first person who believed her. I cried all the way to Ruth's house. Not quietly. Not gracefully. I pressed the envelope against my mouth and sobbed for Lila, for the girl at the bus station, for the teacher I used to be, and for the woman who had spent 26 years becoming smaller beside a man who confused devotion with surrender. Ruth opened her door wearing slippers and a bathrobe. She took one look at me and pulled me inside. What happened? My husband auctioned me. She stared. What? For $20. Then I handed her the envelope. We sat at her kitchen table while I opened it. The letter was 12 pages long. Lila wrote about the shelter, the social worker, the green scarf, and the way I sat outside the bathroom door because she was afraid to shower alone. She wrote that the foster home was investigated after she spoke. 2 other girls came forward. She was placed with a couple who eventually adopted her. She attended college, then law school. She spent her career representing children who had been labeled difficult when they were actually terrified. Near the end, the handwriting became less steady. You probably thought you bought a frightened girl soup and lost one night of sleep. You did more. You taught me that a grown woman could hear an ugly truth and not ask what I had done to cause it. I stopped reading. Ruth covered my hand. I forced myself to continue. Kindness does not disappear, Evelyn. It multiplies in rooms you may never enter. Every child I helped carries a small part of the night you helped me. The final page described the first Safe Door Fund. Lila wanted it to provide emergency transportation, legal help, temporary housing, and unrestricted cash to teenagers escaping dangerous placements. She did not leave me $2 million personally. She left me authority over how $2 million would be used. She also requested that I serve on the Mercer Bridge Board for 5 years with a salary staff and independent legal counsel. The last paragraph broke me. I search for you because gratitude needs a destination. But if my brother finds you and you no longer want to be useful to anyone, please understand this. You owe me nothing. Rest is also a life. I placed the letter on the table. Ruth was crying. What are you going to do? She asked. I don't know. Are you going home? My phone had been vibrating continuously inside my purse. Victor. Board members. The gala director. Numbers I did not recognize. Then a message from Victor appeared. The video is everywhere. Come home immediately. We need a unified statement before morning. I showed Ruth. She read it and handed the phone back. He does not ask if you are all right. Number. He does not apologize. Number. He says we. I looked at the letter, then at my wedding ring. I removed it and placed it beside Lila's pages. No, I said. I am not going home. By sunrise, the auction video had been viewed 4 million times. The clip began with Victor saying $20. It captured the laughter. It captured his comment about discovering my market value. Then Jonathan's voice. $2 million. Someone added subtitles. Someone else created a split screen showing my face while the crowd laughed. The phrase cruelty in a tuxedo began trending by noon. Victor appeared at Ruth's door at 11. She refused to let him inside. He called through the closed door. Evelyn, this has gone far enough. I stood in the hallway. What has gone far enough? The spectacle. You created it. I made a bad joke. You made a truthful joke. Silence. Then he said, the company has already lost 2 calls this morning. The Beaumont project wants clarification. The Halcyon Hotel Group postponed our meeting. Victor's development company specialized in luxury residential properties and boutique hotels. His reputation for philanthropy helped him enter rooms ordinary developers could not. The video showed those rooms what his charm looked like when he believed no consequence would follow. What do you want from me? I asked. A statement saying the auction was planned. It was not. We can say you approved it as a fundraising device. I did not. Evelyn, please think rationally. 30 years of work could collapse over 30 seconds. 26 years of marriage collapsed during those same 30 seconds. His voice became softer. I was trying to be funny. You were comfortable making me the cost. That is not who I am. It is who you were when everyone laughed. He knocked again. I love you. The words arrived too late and too conveniently. You love what I make easier for you. That is cruel. No, Victor, it is specific. I walked away from the door. That afternoon, I met Jonathan at the Mercer Bridge office. The building was smaller than I expected. No marble lobby. No walls covered with donor photographs. Young people moved through the reception area carrying backpacks, case files, and takeout containers. A teenager slept on a sofa beneath a blanket. Nobody asked her to sit up for appearances. Jonathan introduced me to the executive director, Dr. Amara Bell. She did not hug me. She shook my hand. Lila asked us not to overwhelm you with gratitude. That sounds like her. It sounds like the woman she became. Amara showed me the proposed fund documents. There were safeguards. No one, including Jonathan, could redirect the money. I would not control individual cases alone. Decisions required a professional team. My role was to shape policy-approved emergency access standards and make sure the fund never required desperate children to prove their pain beautifully before receiving help. That sentence stayed with me. Why me? I asked. Amara answered, because Lila believed institutions become cruel when the people designing them forget what fear looks like. I am not a lawyer. We have lawyers. I have not worked outside my home in years. Jonathan looked at me. That is not accurate. I turned. He gestured toward the folders I brought from the gala. You planned an event raising $6 million. You coordinated 300 guests, 32 vendors, media, security, transportation, donor relations, and a live auction. For my husband. Unpaid work does not become imaginary because a husband benefited from it. I felt the words physically. For years, Victor described me as someone who had not worked since leaving teaching. Yet he gave me deadlines, expected revisions, criticized outcomes, called at midnight when a donor's name was misspelled. He treated me like an employee whenever he needed labor and like a dependent whenever I asked for respect. I need time, I said. Amara nodded. Take it. No one is going to pressure me. Jonathan almost smiled. That would be a strange way to honor Lila. I hired my own attorney the next day. Her name was Camille Hart, and she asked me questions no one had asked during my marriage. Which accounts could I access? What property was jointly owned? Had I signed business guarantees? Was my unpaid work documented? Did Victor control my phone transportation or medical insurance? I felt embarrassed answering. Camille did not allow the embarrassment to settle. Financial dependence is often built one reasonable decision at a time, she said. A move, a resignation, a shared account, a promise that only one person needs to understand the paperwork. Victor froze the secondary credit card before our meeting ended. Camille documented it. Then she filed for temporary financial orders and exclusive access to my personal belongings. I moved from Ruth's house into a furnished apartment overlooking a parking lot. The first night the refrigerator hummed too loudly. The walls were bare. I sat on the floor eating crackers and cheese because I had not bought plates. I had never felt so frightened. I had never felt so present. Victor's messages changed every day. Come home. We can survive this. You are letting strangers exploit you. Jonathan Mercer is using you to attack me. The board needs you to calm the donors. You are not equipped to manage $2 million. Remember who supported you all these years. That last sentence made me laugh. Victor had supported me with money. I had supported him with time-labor relationships, emotional care, and the quiet removal of every obstacle he did not want to notice. Only his contribution had receipts. 2 weeks after the gala, the Whitfield Children's Foundation announced an independent governance review. The board had discovered that I planned every gala while invoices listed an outside consulting company. The company belonged to Victor's college friend. Over 11 years, the foundation paid the firm nearly $900,000 for event strategy, donor communications, and volunteer coordination. Work I had done. I stared at the invoices. Victor had not merely taken credit. He had allowed charitable funds to be paid for my labor while the money went somewhere else. Camille asked whether I could prove I created the materials. I opened the external hard drive I used for gala work. Drafts, timestamps, vendor emails, seating plans, speech revisions. 11 years of invisible labor stored in folders labeled Final 2, and use this version. I gave the drive to the auditors. They uncovered more. Personal travel charged as donor cultivation. Renovations to our beach house categorized as hospitality improvements. Consulting payments with no corresponding work. The auction video did not create Victor's collapse. It removed the curtain. At first I felt guilty. I imagined him alone in his office while partners canceled meetings. I remembered the young man who once brought coffee to my classroom. Then I remembered that every discovered invoice required a decision. Every false expense required a signature. Every moment of contempt at the gala required him to believe I would smile. Kindness did not require me to interrupt consequences. Victor requested a private meeting. We met in Camille's office. He looked older, not transformed, just deprived of flattering light. The Beaumont project terminated us, he said. I heard. Halcyon followed. I heard that too. The foundation board asked me to resign. I said nothing. He looked at my hands. You are still not wearing your ring, number. Is this really what you want? I want a life where humiliation is not called humor. He rubbed his face. I have replayed the video 100 times. So have millions of people. I saw your face. I waited. I had never seen that expression before. You had. You just always looked away after causing it. His eyes filled. For a moment, I felt the old instinct to rescue him from discomfort. I let the silence remain. I was jealous, he said. Of what? Of how people trusted you. Donors told you things they never told me. Staff came to you when they were afraid. My mother asked for you when she was sick. He looked down. I needed to believe that was because you were useful, not because you were extraordinary. I did not know what to do with the honesty. It did not erase anything. I stood beside an extraordinary woman for 26 years, he continued, and I trained myself not to see her, because seeing her would have made me feel small. Tears reached his cheeks. I am sorry. I believed he meant it. That was the hardest part. A sincere apology can arrive after trust is already dead. I hope you become someone who never does this again, I said. Can I become that person with you? Number. His face tightened. Why not? Because my life is not the classroom where you learn to respect women. He closed his eyes. The divorce took 9 months. Victor fought over money at first, then stopped after the foundation audit became public. He resigned from the company he founded. Several partners bought out his remaining interest at a reduced valuation. He was not left penniless. He was left without the status that had protected his behavior. People called it punishment. I called it arithmetic. I accepted the role at Mercer Bridge after negotiating the terms. That part mattered. I did not accept from gratitude. I asked for a written job description, independent counsel, a salary equal to the responsibility and authority to hire staff. Jonathan agreed to everything. Amara added one condition. You must take vacation. I laughed. I am serious, she said. People who have been valued only for usefulness often rebuild the same prison inside meaningful work. That sentence became one of our first policy principles. The first Safe Door Fund launched 6 months later. We designed a hotline young people could reach without permission from a foster parent. We paid for buses, ride shares, hotel rooms, medication document replacement, and legal consultations. We did not require perfect evidence before providing temporary safety. We did not ask frightened teenagers to sound calm. We asked one question first. Are you safe tonight? During the first year, the fund helped 812 young people. Every case reminded me of Lila. Not because every story ended well. Some children returned to dangerous homes. Some disappeared. Some rejected help. But no act of care was wasted simply because we could not control the ending. That was another lesson Victor never understood. He believed generosity was worthwhile only when someone applauded or owed him. Lila taught me that kindness could continue moving after the giver lost sight of it. I returned to teaching one morning a week at a transitional education center. The first time I entered a classroom again, my hands shook. A boy in the back refused to remove his hood. An administrator whispered that he had an attitude. I sat at the desk beside him. You do not have to talk, I said. But I will be here until the lesson ends. 20 minutes later, he slid a worksheet toward me. It was not a miracle. It was a beginning. Jonathan and I became friends, though tabloids tried to create another story. Photographs of us leaving board meetings appeared beneath headlines suggesting romance. Victor's publicist implied the $2 million announcement had been a planned seduction. I issued one statement. A man respecting a woman in public is not automatically a romance. Sometimes it is simply unfamiliar enough to attract attention. The story disappeared. Jonathan laughed when he read it. Lila would have liked that. I kept her letter in my desk, not framed. Some words should remain close enough to touch. My first month as chair nearly sent me running back to the apartment. A 16-year-old named Keisha called from a gas station after leaving a foster home. The local shelter refused entry without county authorization. The county worker did not answer. Our attorney wanted to wait until morning because no formal allegation had been documented. Every person in the conference room had a reasonable explanation for delay. I looked at the clock. 11:43 at night. Then I remembered the bus station, the split lip, and the officer who had said Lila was probably lying. Book the hotel, I said. The attorney frowned. If the placement later claims she fabricated the danger, the fund could be criticized for interfering. Then document my decision. Amara watched me. What standard are you applying? The standard that safety for one night does not require a final verdict. We sent a female advocate, paid for a room, and arranged an examination the next morning. The investigation later confirmed that Keisha had been sleeping in a laundry room because the foster father locked her out whenever she refused to give him money from her job. When the report arrived, people told me I had been right. That was not the lesson. The lesson was that she deserved a locked door, a clean bed, and one night without fear, even if the report had said something less dramatic. At the next board meeting, we wrote the principle into policy. Temporary safety is not a prize awarded after perfect proof. It is the space in which truth becomes possible. I signed the policy with my full name, Evelyn Rowan, not Whitfield. The letters looked unfamiliar, then honest. On the first anniversary of the Gala, Mercer Bridge held a gathering in the same hotel ballroom. I almost refused the venue. Then I realized I did not want Victor's cruelty to own the room forever. We removed the stage auction. We replaced the sponsor wall with handwritten notes from young people who had received emergency support. One read, "Thank you for believing me before I learned how to explain it." Another, "I thought asking for help meant I was weak. You sent a car before I finished apologizing. I stood beside those notes while guests arrived. No one asked me to remain invisible. No one introduced me as someone's wife. When it was time to speak, I walked onto the stage in a dark blue dress I chose myself. The room became quiet. A year ago, I said a man I trusted told this ballroom that my value was $20. No one moved. Another man answered with $2 million. For months, people called that the moment my worth was revealed. I looked toward Jonathan. He shook his head slightly, already knowing what I would say. They were wrong. The room listened. My worth was not $20 when my husband mocked me. It did not become $2 million when a wealthy stranger defended me. Human dignity does not rise and fall with the number shouted by the loudest person in a room. I took Lila's green scarf from the podium. Jonathan had found it among her belongings. It was faded and carefully repaired at one end. Nearly 30 years ago, I gave this scarf to a frightened girl at a bus station. I thought I was helping her survive one night. My voice broke. I let it. She spent the rest of her life helping thousands survive their own nights. I looked at the audience. Kindness does not make us owners of the people we help. It does not guarantee gratitude. It does not protect us from being hurt later. But it leaves evidence in the world that cruelty is not the only available choice. The applause began slowly. I raised one hand. I am grateful, but please do not applaud me for being extraordinary. The room quieted again. Applaud the ordinary decision to believe someone. Then make that decision when no camera is present. Afterward, a woman approached me near the ballroom doors. She had worked as a server at Victor's Foundation galas for 7 years. I wanted to apologize, she said. For what? I laughed that night. Her eyes filled. Everyone was laughing. I thought if I looked uncomfortable, I might lose shifts. I understood more than I wanted to. Thank you for telling me. I should have stopped it. Perhaps. She looked down. I am trying to become someone who would. I thought of Victor's apology. Growth did not always deserve restored access, but it could still deserve acknowledgement. I hope you do, I said. Later that night, I left the hotel alone. Rain had begun falling over Charleston. At a bus shelter across the street, a teenage girl sat with a torn backpack between her shoes. She wore no coat. For a second time folded. I saw Lila. Then I saw only the girl in front of me. I crossed the street. Are you waiting for someone? I asked. Her eyes sharpened. Why? Because it is late, it is raining, and you look cold. I'm fine. I nodded. May I sit here anyway? She shrugged. I sat at the other end of the bench. We stayed silent for several minutes. Then her stomach growled. There is a diner around the corner, I said. I can buy you something, or I can leave money here and walk away. You choose. She studied me. Why would you do that? Because kindness multiplies. Because gratitude needs a destination. Because once a girl lived long enough to change the world after someone believed her. But I did not tell her any of that. I said, because you are here. She looked toward the rain, then whispered, Can I get soup? Yes. We walked to the diner together. I did not know her story yet. I did not know whether she would trust me or disappear before help arrived. I knew only that the next kind decision had appeared in front of me. For 26 years, Victor taught me to believe value came from being useful to powerful people. Lila taught me something else. A person can be useful and still rest, kind and still leave, forgiving and still refuse to return. A woman can lose a marriage, a home, a reputation, and the role she performed for decades without losing herself. Dignity is the one thing a laughing room cannot take unless we surrender it. That night at the gala, Victor believed he was revealing my price. Instead, he revealed the cost of staying beside someone who refused to see me. Jonathan did not buy my freedom for $2 million. Lila had already returned it through a letter, a scarf, and a life built from one rainy night. All I had to do was stop placing my freedom back into Victor's hands. My name is Evelyn Rowan. I am not a useless wife. I am not a viral humiliation. I am not the woman someone rescued with a bid. I am the woman who finally understood that being unseen does not make a person invisible. And now, whenever someone sits frightened behind a bus station, inside a shelter, in a courtroom, or at the edge of a life they are trying to escape, I want the first door they reach to open. Not because they prove what they are worth, because no human being should have to survive an auction before someone decides to believe them.